Hi, this is Stacy with the Iowa City Public Library here to talk to you about photo books. There are several companies out there that allow you to upload your photos to their website, arrange them into a book, and then have them printed either as hardcover or softcover books for anywhere from $10 to $50 or more. And so we're going to talk about basics of how to make those and the interfaces and choices that you'll encounter. So why make photo books at all? Because we're all walking around with smartphones, taking pictures throughout the day, and it's pretty rare that we go back and reflect on those pictures or review them. So taking the time to make a photo book gives you a chance to relive those memories and then turn them into some tangible physical items. What we want out of photo books is to express creativity and personality with a nice looking design, get good print quality for the photos, have a binding that looks sharp and holds up well, an easy to use interface on the websites that you'll use to create these, and be able to make very basic photo edits in the software, such as maybe straightening a photo, certainly cropping it and changing the brightness. And think about the occasions that you might like to make a photo book. It could be about a trip or vacation you took, for a new baby in your life, for the school year, it could be summer 2021 or some other season, for weddings, celebrations like retirements or anniversaries. You could make a family history book and then print out multiple copies to share with your family, or old photo collections, etc. Lots of options. And you can think of them as gifts for family, friends, babies, or yourself. For babies, the idea is rather than buying another copy of Where the Wild Things Are, you could make your own book with your family members. And so maybe on one page, there's a picture of grandpa, labeled really big grandpa. Maybe there's a picture of grandpa's house, labeled in a way that, looking through it with a baby would be fun. So you can get creative with photo books too. These are the basic steps that you would encounter to make your photo book. Choosing your pictures, choosing a company to use, picking a template on their website, or letting it be a very basic template where you will do all of the creative decisions. There's a big time difference between using their templates and making a lot of the choices for yourself, but you might be drawn to one or the other. You'll upload your photos to their website and then spend time arranging them into the book. And you might do that just chronologically on different themes, by orientation, by which I mean, if you've got two portrait-oriented photos, they'll fit neatly on a page together. Two landscape photos would be as big as possible, things like that. You'll almost always have the option to add captions if there isn't already a choice for that in your template. And so you can add text of any size or shape that you want to your page. You'll maybe have a chance to change design elements, like adding different backgrounds, designs, or stickers. And then you'll want to check your preview and order. I will just say that to prepare for this class, I'm drawing from lots of articles I found online that were all pretty recent reviews of the photo book companies out there. And so the articles are from Tech Radar, the New York Times Wirecutter, Tom's Guide, the Spruce Crafts, and Digital Camera World. So if you wanted to follow up on any of these, you could look for those articles. And then in the last month, I made books in Mixbook, Shutterfly, and Walmart. And I've got the physical books at the library so that you can compare and see their quality. And they'll be available in the Digital Media Lab for the next few months if you want to come in and see as well. So for all of these companies, the features that you want to consider are vast. And this isn't even all of them, but I just want to get some of the options in your head so that you'll know what you might encounter. As far as the cover of your book, you'll have a choice of hardcover or paperback. Just depends on your preference. The paperbacks are much less expensive. You'll have a choice of the cover finish. So this one is matte. It may be hard to see that on the screen. This one from Shutterfly is glossy. This one from Walmart has a cut through. So there's a hole in the cover leading to like a peekaboo picture on the first page. It also has a linen finish or a fabric finish on the cover. And some of the other companies also offer fake leather or maybe metallic text on the front cover to make it look extra nice. For binding, there's regular binding, and then some have lay flat. And let me switch what I'm showing here. This is Snapfish. This is one of the classic companies that has done photo books. And they have an example on here of what the binding looks like. 1 second, did I go past it? Maybe. Yep. Okay, so this would be sort of ordinary hardcover binding. That would be the least expensive of those choices. Then a lot of the companies offer lay flat. So there's something flexible in between the piece of paper, allowing it to lay flat when it's open. And then there's premium lay flat on some where you can tell that it's sort of printed across and folded over so that you'll have sort of seamless images across the crease. And then here's an example just of what the paperback binding looks like. If you aren't really particular about the binding, I would just let it be the default or the least expensive. And I would only consider lay flat for very special occasions, I think. You also may have the choice of putting text on the spine of the book. I didn't have that for any of my examples, but if you plan to get really into lots of photo books and have them on your shelf, you may appreciate being able to see which is which at a glance. For the pages of your book, you'll have a choice of matte finish, glossy, or luster. And I found an explanation of those options. So the Digital Camera World article says that glossy paper is good for contrast and color. Matte paper is better at hiding fingerprints and reflections while you're looking at it. And soft sheen luster papers offer a good middle ground compromise. So you can decide what's right for you, but also pay attention to whether that adds costs. So I think for normal people's purposes, the paper finish isn't going to make a huge difference. You also have a choice of adding pages. So the default for the photo books may be 20 to 25 pages, and then they will have a cap on the maximum number of pages. When I noticed this, it was around 100, but you have to pay for each extra page, sometimes $1 to $2. So that would add up very fast. So if possible, you want to keep it close to the default number of pages. Your upload options also will vary based on the different services. So you certainly can upload photos from a computer, and then some of them also would allow you to upload from your smartphone. Some are connected to social media, so you could pull in your Facebook or Instagram photos. And then others rely on digital collections. So if you already use Google Photos, some of them can pull from there. If you have your pictures stored in the cloud, you may be able to get them straight from the cloud, or you may have to save them to a computer first. And then for selections, the most normal way to choose which pictures you'll use is for you to look through your pictures and pick out the best ones. This is the human method. Some of the services offer artificial intelligence selections. So you show them a chunk of photos and their software will pick out which ones they think are the best or most important. This may or may not work well for you. And in the couple of articles I read about it, people said that for the most part, it was pretty on the mark, except every once in a while, a screenshot or like a recipe would pop in. And so you would want to go through and review the selections that they made and make changes. There's also an option in some of them to pay their designers to do the photo book work for you. And it's not terribly expensive. When I noticed it on, I think, Shutterfly, it was maybe only $10 more to let them fill in the book for you. So if you want a photo book but don't want to invest a lot of time, that could be an option. Finally, your design choices. If you can find a company that has a template that matches your style, that you love the way that the cover is designed, and you love the base templates that come as a default, so that you wouldn't have to make a lot of changes, you could just plunk in your photos, that will save you a lot of time. But you can also choose to have a lot of do-it-yourself control, and you choose how big or what size the photos are on the page, what the background looks like, where your text would go, things like that. Most of the services will have these photo editing tools, but if you decide that you need a lot of photo editing, you might want to look for a service that allows for that. And I think it was Mixbook that has more photo editing options than Shutterfly and Walmart, in my experience. Or you can consider whether you'll do some photo editing before you even upload them. So if you are working with photos that are in your Photos app on your computer or phone, you can make the basic edits there in advance before you do the uploads. And like I said, captions are usually an option, or if not, you can usually add a text box wherever you want. Some basic photo tips. If you look at this quote down here, you don't have to try hard with these photos. Just pick the photos you like. The way that you're looking at the pictures on a screen is not necessarily going to be how they come out of a printer onto paper. So as long as you're picking decent looking photos that you enjoy, you don't have to spend too much time making adjustments or making them perfect, unless you like to do that. The main point is to use pictures that are big enough that they print clearly, or if you have a smallish photo that you love, you can scale it down onto the page until it tells you that it will print well. So if your picture is going to turn out pixelated, usually the software will give you a little alert telling you to resize it. Couple of photo tips for more advanced users. It's recommended to avoid washed out, very bright photos that might look cool on a computer screen, but may turn out weird when printed. And then they also recommend not to pull your photos back off of Instagram if possible, or other editing apps. If you upload a picture somewhere and make changes and save it there, it may compress it down to a smaller file. And when you try to blow it back up, it may have lost some of the data or the details in the picture. So if possible, you want to use big original photos that you have maybe edited in your Photos app, but haven't done anything too crazy to. That said, of course, you should be creative if you want to. Let's see. Oops. Few more things to think about. Captions. If you plan to include a lot of text in your book, you might find that writing it in the software is very small and that doesn't offer spell check necessarily. So you might rather compose it in Word or Notepad and be able to make your edits that way before you paste it back into the software. Also, don't limit yourself to photos. You could consider including other graphics in there, newspaper articles, scans, pictures or scans of concert tickets. I had this nutty idea that you could use the screenshot of your confirmation email for a flight as sort of the main picture on a page, and then put a picture of, the view out of the airplane window or the view, a photo from the place that you went on top. If you're doing a more casual book, there's a meme that sort of captured that moment in time, you could stick the meme next to a photo that it represents, and then imagine looking back on it in like 5 years and how funny it will be to see that outdated meme. Just some options for getting more creative with the book making. And another point, think about how things look on your screen versus in print. So one person shared with me that the white backgrounds looked great on her computer screen when she was making this book, an example, but once they were printed out, it looked a little simple, or like she had missed some options to make it look richer. So keep that in mind too. What's the best reason not to make a photo book? Commitment and frustration. So it takes time to make these. If you are like me, you can get very absorbed and spend hours picking the photos, putting them in just the right arrangement, looking at all of the different features you have on that website, and making sort of a nice arc and transitions among the different pictures that you're including. It doesn't have to take that much time though. So a lot of the services offer very quick versions where maybe either they will put the photos in their own order and then you can change it if you don't like it. If you trust their templates, then you don't have to spend all that time customizing things. But you should plan that this is not a 10-minute project by any means. You should commit a chunk of time to making your book. I also think it's a good idea to break it into multiple sessions. To me, the act of choosing the photos and putting them into an album or copying them into a folder on my computer is a couple hours maybe of reviewing those pictures and remembering those experiences and lovingly picking out the ones that are best. And so if I had just spent an hour doing that, I would not be ready to build my book that same day. I would get exhausted pretty fast. So coming fresh to build your book, I think, is a good idea. You want to use a device with a reliable internet connection. This is the frustration part. If you had spotty internet and as you were carefully doing your work, you found that it froze up or you lost some work, that would be devastating, or if you lost the whole project. So if you don't have reliable internet, you might think about doing this kind of thing at a friend's house or at the library where you can trust that it will go well. Finally, you want to save your progress as you go. You do not want to lose your work. And I can tell you from recent memory that I had to make this book for Walmart 3 times because of a couple misunderstandings I had. And so it's very fresh in my mind how much you do not want to have to repeat the careful work of laying out your book. And most of the services will allow you, or they'll automatically save as you go, or they'll let you purposefully save. And you should take advantage of that frequently. Speaking of which, you may have to set up an account with the service. And I know that we've recently in our passwords class recommended not setting up accounts whenever you can avoid it, because then you're just setting up another place where you have to make a password and there's more information about you in the world. But I would say for this purpose, it's worth setting up the free account. It'll save your progress as you go. When you finish your project, it will hang on to it so that you could make another copy in the future. Not indefinitely, but for a while. And you would also receive emails that would give you promo codes or coupons, and sometimes an offer for a free item. The caveat to that is that you may receive too many emails. You may receive lots. And so I would recommend you could either unsubscribe after you're done with your project, or if you want to be able to have access to those codes, you can set up a filter in your email account so that anything from @shutterfly.com or whatever can go into your archive or into a separate folder so that you don't see it in your inbox all the time and get sort of locked into spending more money on that website than you plan to. So yeah, speaking of the costs, it's hard to anticipate how much a book will cost. And the Wirecutter quote here, you can't tell for sure which one will be the cheapest at any moment because they are always having sales. If you go to make a photo book at a time that there is not a sale that would help you out on the price for a certain company, if you wait a week, it's very likely that they'll have kicked in a sale again. It's often about half off, sometimes more. So I would not recommend paying full price for a photo book unless you are really in a pinch and you've got to get it done. You can also build your book, start the project and save it on the website anytime, and then wait until there's a sale to make the order. You also want to watch out for add-on costs. All the options you have at the beginning about the paper, binding, and extra pages can really add up. And so I have a picture here of frozen yogurt, because you might have had the experience at a frozen yogurt bar where you squeeze in about $2 worth of yogurt into your cup. And then when you turn to the toppings, it can easily turn into an $8 cup of yogurt. So watch out for those add-on costs for these books in the same way, and make sure that you're keeping it to an amount that you had in mind. But also keep in mind that free shipping isn't guaranteed. Maybe if you're buying a very expensive luxury book, multiple items, you might hit a minimum amount for free shipping, or sometimes that's what their promotion is for free shipping. But I might mentally tag on an extra $6 to $8 for shipping in my head when I'm calculating how much a book will cost, plus tax, as I'll show you for my 3 examples. There are lots of companies that offer this service. This is not a comprehensive list, but these are the ones that showed up in my research for all of those review articles. So these are all perfectly great companies that could make you a photo book. But I will run down some details about which ones are better than others or what strengths each one has. This is also not at all comprehensive. I just tried to do a quick snapshot of what people were saying about these. So Amazon offers photo books. In general, people said that it is great pricing. They're not expensive, but the interface isn't as useful as some of the others, and the options for like the designs might be more limited. So not as many background choices or fonts, not as many choices for how the cover is set up, things like that. Artifact Uprising is described as a good luxury option if you've got a very special photo book you want to make that is worth the extra money. I looked on their website, and to do an 8 by 8 inch book like my samples, it would have cost maybe twice as much as I was paying for Mixbook and Shutterfly. But they did have smaller ones that were 5 by 5 inches that were about the same price as these bigger ones. And they had, some of them had a cutout on the cover and metallic writing. So you could look into their small options for about the same price if it didn't matter to you as for the size. Costco makes photo books. This was described as a good budget option with medium print quality, so it's fine. I couldn't tell for sure whether you have to be a Costco member. One article I read said that you don't have to, but you would have to set up an account with them on their website at the very least to get in. So you could look into that if you're interested. Google Photos is an option that you would only want to use if you already keep your pictures in Google Photos, because it's going to draw directly from there. And this is one that has the artificial intelligence selections. So I think you would give it a frame of time, and among those photos, it will pick out the ones it thinks are the best. This one also has somewhat limited options for the design, but that might be interesting to try if you're already using Google Photos. Mixbook is the most recommended of all the review sources. Everyone agrees that it's got a good interface, lots of design options, and good print quality. So Mixbook is one of the ones that I did as an example, and you can check that out. Motif is another one that's tied to a certain environment. So if you have a Mac computer with the Photos app, you could add a little extension that would let you make a book through Motif. If you're using an iPhone or iPad, there's an app that you could add, and then it would walk you through the photo bookmaking process. This is another one that uses artificial intelligence to make the selections, but as in Google and this one both, you can review it and make changes if they picked out something that wasn't what you would pick. The next one down is Peekaboo. One of the reviews I read said that it used to be their top pick and it had gotten pushed into second place by Mixbook. So it's still a good choice, although they had recently experienced slow upload speeds. So Peekaboo is a good choice. Printique is supposed to have excellent print quality. It might be a little more expensive than the other choices, but that's a good choice if you want to make something very nice. Shutterfly, to me, is the classic choice because I've used it in the past and it's been around a long time. That's one of my sample books. The shiny one is from Shutterfly. And so you can come into the library and compare that print quality to the Mixbook one, etc. A fair amount of design choices, not quite as many as Mixbook. I also found that the interface was not quite as user-friendly as a Mixbook, but it's perfectly great option for making your book. Snapfish is usually mentioned in the same breath as Shutterfly. It's another classic choice. It's been around for a long time. Easy to use, lots of backgrounds, medium print quality. And then we've got Walgreens. This is if you'd rather do something where it's kind of a local pickup option, you can have same day pickup. I did that for Walmart and it sort of meant like within 12 hours or so, I was notified that it was ready for pickup. So Walgreens would have probably medium print quality. Walmart also medium print quality, but if speed is your main concern, that's a good choice. And also if they're pretty budget friendly. So if you're more interested in making something fun or inexpensive, if you're gonna have to make lots of copies to share, then you might wanna look into those. And for all of these, if you are interested in learning more about a certain one, do a Google search for them or see if you can find those articles that I mentioned and read more details about each one. So these are the 3 books that I made. I got my Mixbook book. It was 8.5 by 8.5 inches. It's a matte finish on the cover, which I think looks very sharp and contemporary. It came with a default of 25 pages. And you can see the original cost is $42. The discount that they gave me because of the sale brought it to $21, $6 shipping, plus $1 or so in tax brought this one to about $29. For Shutterfly, I was trying to get about the same size. So this is an 8 by 8 inch glossy cover book. It came with 20 pages default. So you'll see in my math here that I added a few because I was trying to get the same layout between the sample books. And so they get a little different at the end. But the base cost was $30, half off. I paid $1.25 for each extra page. There was an extra fee for my cover options. So if you're just looking at this, that would be misleading, right? So you want to be careful as you're calculating your costs. But that brought it up to sort of equivalent to the cost of the Mixbook base price. For Shutterfly, it was $8 shipping. So that really brings your number up. So if you can watch out for free shipping or plan that you're going to spend that much, it's a good idea. And then with tax, that came to about $32. For Walmart, I had sort of a struggle. After I made the first two, which took me like 4.5 hours, I had seen on the Walmart website that they had same day creation. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll wait a while until I take the time to make the Walmart one. Well, I waited too long. And so I tried to make an 8x8" book. And then once I was finished creating it and went to order it, it turned out that the base template that I had used was not available for same day creation. So then I had to start over. And by looking through their website, I saw that there were two options for same day books. One was an 8x11" hardcover book, and one was the linen cover book. And so I went with the 8x11 and I remade my whole book. And then at the very end, at the checkout, it told me that that was out of stock and not available. So then after some swear words, I went back and made the linen cover book. So this doesn't match the same size or cover style, but it'll give you a sense of the print quality on the pages inside. So this is their 8x11 linen cover book with the cutout on the cover. Came with 20 pages by default. I didn't add any pages, but I could have. The base cost is only $20. So this is where Walmart is a lot thriftier option. And then there was a sale. So it was about $16 base cost. They charged $3 charge to get the same day production and shipping, and tax brought it to $20. And then I picked it up in the store. And it was interesting that they didn't charge me until I showed up in the store to pick it up. So they give you 7 days to pick it up. And I don't know what they would do if I didn't show up to pay. If they would just throw it out or what. But anyway, those are the three main options. And so let me just talk to you a little bit about my Mixbook experience. So, and I'll just go to the website while I am saying this. One moment. Okay, so this is the Mixbook website, and I'm already logged in to my free login. This was the top recommendation for most of the review sources. Like I said before, Wirecutter said they actually make it fun to create photo albums. It was the best book building experience of the bunch and some of the best themed layouts. So on here, you can get started with photo books by choosing one of their categories, occasions, things like this. They also are affiliated with Martha Stewart, I guess. So you could look at the templates that are from her brand if that was exciting to you. And since I have my project in here, you can see that this is my book that I made that was last updated yesterday because I was messing around with it during class. And I could make edits or I could order another copy here if I wanted to. I would say overall in the process of creating that one, the way that they showed the options for paying more or less for all of the paper and binding was very easy to understand. I left it at the hardcover soft touch matte as the default, and I was very happy with that. I picked the cover design that had the most ink or color on it so that we could see how that looks. And it looks very sharp. The way that you alter your photos in here, I thought was very useful. You can see they'll have lots of tips for how to use this. I ignore most of those, but if you get really into this, you might find that things will help you be faster about your creations. This is going a little slow. This is not how it was when I made the book, but this is the kind of thing that might affect which company you choose. Let's see if I can make it try again. Well, doing this with Zoom might not be a great option. If I go to create a new one, let's see if that works a little bit better. You can either start with a totally blank canvas, so I'll make all the decisions about how the photos will lay out on the cover and on the pages, or you can pick one that you already kind of like so that you don't have to do all that work. You just choose one. Gives me a chance to change the shape, although I like the square ones, and start my book. But maybe it won't work for this demo. Basically, in the moment where you're looking at a picture that you've put on a page, I liked the way that it popped up my editing options for each picture right beneath the photo. It gave you all the basic edits, rotating, changing what's in front of what, things like that. So here's this moment where it's going to let me choose photos that I already have put on their website or upload new ones. Normally you'll be uploading from your computer or whatever your source is, but for our purposes, I will stick with the ones that I've already got on here and just put a few. Okay, so I'm going to add those 4 to my project. I get the choice of whether to let them automatically fill it in. If the order doesn't matter to me, that could save you some time. But I also don't mind dragging the photos into place. So this is the cover. Let's jump ahead to some pages. Oops. And so here I am on page 4. I can drag my photo into the space that they allotted, and then it fills it in. If I don't really like where that falls on the page, I can move it around. I can rotate it back. And this is what I was talking about, my tools popping up in a rectangle below the picture. I found that this was easy to remember what all my options are in one spot. By comparison, in Shutterfly, a lot of the controls were along the left navigation or in a navigation across the top. I found it a little easy to forget about those, but if your brain works that way, or you really want to commit to a certain software, you'll get the hang of it eventually. So that's not a deal breaker. I'm going to advance to the next page. Here's a photo space that is going to fill the whole page. So if I plunk in my photo, it fills it in. Now, if I don't like where that landed, I can grab a hold of this middle part and pan up or down or side to side if it was that format, and place things where I want them to be. What else did I think about Mixbook? In general, I thought it was user-friendly. One negative is that it didn't allow me to put a photo on the back cover. It lets me hide the used photos as I go so that I don't accidentally put that sunset picture in again later without realizing it. Or if you want to see them all, it's got a check mark for the ones that have been used. That's a common feature in the other software as well. And one thing that is special about Mixbook that I didn't see in Shutterfly or Walmart is that if I go to add some text on top of this, and I just drop it right here, I can start typing. If I'm making my decisions about the font, I don't know what that's going to look like. I need to highlight it first, and then I can do this. I can change the size. One great feature is that for the colors, they offer me some standard colors, or I can choose any color from the color wheel, but it also has an eyedropper. So I can pick from a color in my picture, which might be hard to get that really darkest red, or I can, pick a green, and it will make my picture look very sharp because I'm not doing a green that's slightly off and looks jarring. It's going to look very very professional. So that was a cool feature in Mixbook. I'm going to stop my sharing and sort of talk you through some of the things I did in the book so that you remember what your options are when you're making yours. So this has blank end pages. And then this was from my template that I chose for this design. This was the only one of the three that offers this kind of cutout that the picture goes into that's other than a rectangle. So if you love that feature, you could try Mixbook or see if the others have that as well. And this text was just part of the template. If I didn't like any part of those text boxes, I could delete them out. Here, I chose a different background that was not part of this theme that I liked for this particular picture. And then here, you'll notice a feature that some of the services have, not all of them, of letting a picture bleed over the crease onto the next page. There's something that looks professional and good about that. And I was not able to do in my same day Walmart book. And I think I could do it in Shutterfly, if I remember correctly. Here's one where it's the full page. So this is sort of like magazine printing right up to the edge, as opposed to having a white border around it. So you might want to think about which look you prefer. This was another one from the template where there was some text. I could have gotten rid of that. One reason that I made this dog smaller is that this picture came from one of my coworkers. I got pictures from people who work at the library, and it gave me one of those warnings that it wasn't high enough resolution to print at a full size. So I resized it down and it looks pretty good now. These were just a couple of photos that I thought might be challenging for the printer to do well. So if you wanted to come into the library and compare the same photos across the three, this guy, you can tell that the contrast is different in the Shutterfly printing compared to this one. Here's one where I chose another background. I also rotated this picture a little bit and I added this shadow behind it. The shadow or borders are not available in all of them. So if that matters to you, you might want to check on that. And then for this guy, I use this as a chance to demonstrate some of the different fonts that are provided. If you're very attached to a certain style, that might be a reason to choose one service over another. And here was another one where their template gave me a nice cutout shape that I think is fun. Okay, so here I had a day and night of the same shot. I wish that I would have scooted this over because the picture kind of goes into the gutter. And to me, it looks unbalanced compared to this white edge. So that's the kind of thing you want to pay attention to. I put this text on top of it, partially covering things. It's a nice way to do things. And then for this Paris example, I used the same font and I added a little sticker that's transparent that overlaps. I did the same kind of transparent sticker in Shutterfly, but it came out opaque. So just a heads up that sometimes the way it looks on the screen will not be how it looks when you print it. Another thing about this one is that I turned off the hide used photos option so that I could see this picture again in my choices. And I added it into each of these boxes. So I've got 4 of the same picture. And then in the editing options, I cropped it down to just the little section that I wanted, and I turned it to black and white. And then in the second one, I cropped it down to the other girl, made it black and white. Switching to black and white seemed like an option in all 3 that I tried, and it just, gives a different atmosphere. On this page, my goal was to have samples for text size so that you might be able to make good decisions about how big your text needs to be legible. To me, the size 10 in Mixbook is perfectly legible, but if you prefer bigger, 12 would be a comfortable reading size. And then if you're doing the big decorative like headings, this was much bigger. This was maybe 30 or something. The thing that I found in Walmart was that the text size didn't mean anything. I set it to size 10, and then when I was changing the way that the text box was shaped, it resized the text and still told me that it was size 10, but it's very clearly way bigger than size 10. So you want to be wary about whether those numbers will come out the way you imagine. And if you need to think about doing sort of a test and thinking, well, this is 8 inches, so this is 4 inches, that's 2 inches, and sort of imagine what that would look like in real life, that might be a good idea before you invest a lot of time in your layout. Here's another one where I chose a background and one where there's a full color picture, kind of a challenging picture to print. So you'll see that they did slightly different jobs for that. Another example of the cutouts that they have and the text on the templates. Here, I've got another photo that bleeds over the edge. And then I made this word vertical like this by adding a text box. And then I just hit return after each letter that I typed. And I centered the letters into the middle, so it looks, you know, nice to me. You can do that as well. Here's another full page picture versus one that's got the white border. So think about whether that matters to you. And then this was like a sticker that Mixbook had to plock on top. I managed to replicate it in Shutterfly by adding a white rectangle, and then I added some text on top. Or it might be vice versa. I can't remember which was which. Let's down for a second. So in Shutterfly, you'll see the same picture and then similar style. So that one has got sort of a rough edge. So you've got lots of design choices. So there's the sunset. One more where there was a cutout with their text. I could change this if I didn't like what that said. And another where I've got a special background and a shadow behind my picture. On the back page here, there's their logo, some blank end pages, and the back of the book. So that was the Mixbook experience. I'll just briefly talk about what I thought of Shutterfly and Walmart. For Shutterfly, it was a less intuitive interface, I thought. At first, it seemed like I couldn't even move the text boxes that the template provided, but then after I clicked around, I was able to. So trial and error is probably going to be part of this process for you. Again, the drop-down menus at the top and the side navigation was just different than Mixbook. So you just want to train yourself on where to look. One benefit was on this was that they let me add photos and text to the back cover. I left their option for auto enhancing the photos on. I'm not sure what it did since I couldn't do a control without that, but my pictures seem to look pretty good. It gave me warnings about low resolution, just like the others, although the warning was up in the corner of the picture. And so if I had resized it up and the corner fell outside of my printable area, I might miss that warning. So keep that in mind. But Shutterfly auto-saved as I went. It gave provided colors to use for text, no eyedropper. It, yeah, and I made a few mistakes. So in a couple spots, you can see, maybe you can see here, that along the bottom of this page, there's this bit of orange and white. It's because when I put this cat photo on top, this was the background color and I didn't totally cover it up. So that was sloppy. I also have a little dent on my foredge that you can maybe see. I tried to squish it out, but that happened in shipping. It's pretty easy to fix, but just a heads up. And I would say for this cover choice, it's got sort of painterly swipes and some little bits that looked very sharp on the computer screen, but in real life might look like I have a dirty cover. So that's another reason to think about how it looks on the screen versus in real life. And then I got some text too close to the top here. So when I was doing my size options, that looked like it was within the printable area on my screen, but it got cut off in reality. So think about giving yourself some buffer space too. Okay, that was Shutterfly. Perfectly nice book. For Walmart, I already complained to you about how challenging this was. I would say the other challenge for me is that on my computer screen, which might vary from yours, the preview of the pages of the book was very small. And so I couldn't find a way to resize it within the website. So I ended up having to zoom in on my web browser, which then made all of the buttons for my controls humongous. So hopefully on a different screen, you wouldn't have that problem, but just a heads up that I had to do lots of zooming in and out, more than I think a normal person would want to do. Another thing about this, and this was a little different because this is the one-day option, so some of my features were not available, was that if I tried to change my background options, like I had in the others where I really varied the styles between pages, it would totally change the whole thing. I could only choose one background for the whole project. And for the same day, I didn't really get any background options. So no designs to go on the background. You see, poor Ellie is just there. But when I did it the first time for the option where it would take like a week for it to be produced and shipped, I did get those background options. I just had to choose one for the whole book. So that's a heads up. If you wanted to be very creative, you would be somewhat limited by that. It told me low quality when a picture was too big. One thing it didn't do that I liked was it didn't show me any guidelines for centering when I had a picture in the middle. I just had to make some guesses. So the other software did offer me guidelines showing where my picture was. And then also I found that the text boxes were a little frustrating. While I was editing them, it increased the size of the font, which was kind of nice so that I could see what I was typing. But if I was trying to set a font size just so that it looked good compared to my picture, it would shrink back down after I closed out of the edit. And I found that very frustrating. So that is why on this one, amazing is going over the edge, because at that point I'd had enough and I didn't care about resizing it down for a fifth time to get it to be the right size. But I will say that this is a perfectly nice book. It was very fast, it was the least expensive, and it seems like it's designed for you to not make changes to the template. So if you were happy just plunking in your pictures to what they already provide and not making major changes, then I think you would probably have a fairly easy time using this one as well. So that is our photo books overview. Hopefully you will decide to make one as a gift this season, or winter is just a good time to go back through your photos and maybe put something together. And like I said before, these 3 books will be available in the Digital Media Lab on the 2nd floor of the library. If you want to look at them in person, compare the print quality, look at the binding options, and get ideas for what you think looks good in person when you make your own book. If you have any questions about how to use the websites or software, please let me know at the library or just call or stop by the info desk anytime. Thank you.